right, hello children. It's Pastor Matthew here for our children's praise time. This time we're working through the children's catechism. And now we're going to find today our fifth question. We've been working through the question slowly, one by one, week by week. You might remember if you were with us last week that we learned about who God is. God is a spirit, infinite, eternal, and unchangeable. And in his being, there's justice, goodness, and truth. Well, here is question number 5. We're going to ask another question about God. And the question you're going to see at the bottom of your screen is this: is or are there more gods than one? And the answer is, there is only one living and true God. There is only one living and true God. So I want you to look at this picture that we saw from before. This image is helpful because it's showing us that there is a circle that represents God, and then everything else that God ever made is down here. That includes you and me, us, and then all of creation. We have plants and animals and all the planets and bushes and grass and seeds and sun and trees, and it's all down here, everything God made. And so when we say that God is, hold up your finger and go one, God is one, what we're saying is that God is one, is he's over here by himself. And there's only one like God, and that's God. No one is like God. Nothing else is like God. There's a big difference between everything else and God. And we find here a picture of the cross because that's showing us that God has come into our world. But we can't find him. He has to come down and find us. So I want you to see an image to help you think of God being one. If you like breakfast, sometimes you make eggs in the morning, and you'll find in your fridge a carton of eggs like this, 12 eggs. But here we're missing a few. We have something entirely different, right? Here's a red ball. So we would say this: God is like this red ball. God is one. There's only one like God. There's only one like this red ball. You, maybe, and me, and even everything else that ever could be in existence. A bunch of trees, a bunch of animals or cats or dogs, all the stuff you can think of, they're all similar in the sense that we were all created by God. But only God is like this red ball. He's by himself. There's only one red ball in this carton of eggs. There's only one God. So when we say, is there more God? Are there more gods than one? There is only one true and living God, or living and true God, we could say. And so the Bible verse I want you to think of, and I want you to study it if you can with your teachers, is you learn this Bible verse in a passage in the book of Exodus, where in Exodus 3, Moses meets God at a burning bush. And he said, "What is your name?" He asked God what his name was. And God said that his name was I Am. So that's something to think about. God defined himself by saying that I Am is his name. That means that he simply just is. God is his own person. These 3 persons, we'll talk about that next week. But he's his own entity. He's his own being. And there's no one like him. So when we say, well, what is God like? Well, he's like this or he's like that. But what exactly is God? Well, we don't have an ability to say that. We just know that God is, because there's nothing that he's perfectly like. So he is only one. He is here's the phrase: if your teachers ask you, what is God's name? You can answer and say, God's name is I Am.